Yeah. Hey, Stephanie, we're going live right now. Who do you want to do a shout out to?
I want to give a shout out to my amazing family because they have been such a huge support during this season of my life.
All right, amazing family. Here we go. Guys, we're back with another amazing guest today, Stephenie Zamora. She is all about purpose. Her purpose in life is purpose. We'll talk about that. Stephanie helps people uncover the purpose of their path, step into who they're on this planet to actually be, and make the impossible happen rapidly. So we're going to talk all about that. Stephanie, how are you today?
I am wonderful. I am so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited that you're here because I love the idea of your purpose is purpose. How did you come up with that?
You know, it became such a thread in my life that it was undeniable. Since as far back as I can remember, I'm one of those people that has always wondered, like, what is the point of life? And I have felt like someone who didn't belong in this time, place, planet. And so there was always like existentialism going on for me. And I have spent my entire life trying to understand purpose for myself and as a whole, and then in turn, teaching other people.
We're not even going to like do the fluff thing today. I want you to go right into talking about how people can find their purpose. First of all, one of the things I noticed on your website is you talk about the subconscious and how that needs to be reined in and understood. Can you talk about that just for a minute?
Absolutely. So, our subconscious mind, for people who don't really understand it, is the only thing, it's wide open until the ages of about 5 to 7, sometimes older, depending on who you ask. And without our conscious mind, we have no ability to accept or reject information that's coming in. So from when we're born until we're about 5 to 7, we're just accepting everything that comes at us. And that means that the systems that we're a part of, the family that we have, the attachment figures, the experiences that we go through as we enter the world, and the education system, all of them get internalized on an unconscious level. They shape our belief system, what we believe is possible and impossible. They form our winning strategy, which we use to stay safe, secure, and successful as we navigate life. And it shapes our worldview. And we don't even know that this has happened. And that means in the process, like, we get disconnected from our truth, the truth of who we are and who we're here to be, because we're spending all this time and energy trying to navigate the world using these subconscious beliefs as a guidepost, when really that's not the truth of our reality in our world. It's just what got internalized. And so really understanding the subconscious piece is so important. Otherwise, you're never free to make conscious choices. You're never consciously choosing how you're showing up and what you're moving towards and what your purpose is. So it's really critical to understand that part.
So, is one of the things that you do is you teach people how to deal with that subconscious, and or is that's the first step that you do, or is there something that comes before dealing with the subconscious?
It's one of the first things that I do. The first step is really alignment and understanding who you are, because you can't live your purpose and create the life that you want if you're not living true to who you are. And the truth about alignment,
Do people actually have to do the understanding of that of who they are? Because a lot of people are messed up and don't really understand who they are, right?
yes. Yeah. And even if you think you really know yourself, there's so many deeper layers to it, because again, your subconscious has been blocking you from certain things. So I always start with understanding your core wounding and your winning strategy, which is the subconscious piece, as well as getting to know your personality type and your unique energetic wiring, the way that you are wired to move through the world and engage with the universe and everything around you. And once you really understand that, and you can start to bring more of your experience and relationship into alignment with those truths without being colored by the subconscious fears and blocks and strategies, then you get to deepen into yourself, and the seed of your purpose has always been there. And so you can start to connect with that and explore how your purpose actually wants to be expressed at this time.
And then how do people actually start to do that? What's the first thing that you would do with somebody who's brand new and wants to learn how to dig into that subconscious and figure out their subconscious and their purpose?
Yeah, I always start with the core wounding. And so the way that we clear our subconscious, well, we can't really fully clear it, but the way we become conscious to it, so it's not driving us anymore, is to understand that the thing that we're most afraid of believing or feeling. And we all have core wounds. It's if you think about the stories that you experience, if something happens and you tell yourself, I'm not good enough, or I knew I was unlovable, or something's wrong with me, I'm damaged and broken, like that story and those feelings signal your core wounding. And when you can understand your core wounding, you start to see the ways that you behave to feel and experience the opposite of that, and to basically manipulate your experience and to experience success and wins in life to a certain degree. So when you understand those pieces, then it makes it easier to see how you're not even connected often to, what do I want? What am I here to do? What feels right for me? Because you're so busy trying to stay safe, because you're so afraid to feel certain things that aren't even true about yourself. So it's pretty complicated, but that's where people can start, and that's where I start with them. What are you most afraid to feel, and what are you most afraid is true about you? Because then you can start to unravel those core pieces.
Yeah, because you actually work with not just individuals, you work with businesses also. I'm guessing entrepreneurs, and you work with a lot of women in uncovering these things, right?
I do, yes. And it's at play everywhere. If you're running a big company or you have a team, all of that subconscious stuff is at play. And it is what hinders us from being able to create the things that we want.
Okay, and then a lot of times when people want to figure out all these things, they don't know where to start. So you give them a framework, and I think you've got the five pillars that you run people through. Is that correct?
I do. So when it comes to making the impossible happen, there's 5 different stages of that. But it really, like the 3 most important components to start with are that alignment piece. So being able to come in alignment with the truth of who you are so that you start to move through the world as the person that you're here to be. And the second part is learning to step outside of those subconscious winning strategies, because anytime that we're in one, we are just repeatedly reinforcing the belief that some things are possible and others are not. And when we do that, we push the things that we really desire that we think are impossible further and further away. But instead of replacing those subconscious strategies with a new one, we actually want to come into alignment and then move through the world from a certain different way of being. And that requires more than just like doing the things that you think you need to do to have what you want or be the person you want to be. It's full embodiment. You are fully embodied as that person.
Let me ask you a question about that. One of the things that a lot of people say is fake it until you make it. And I'm not sure that you believe fully in that fake it till you make it methodology. It's more, that's beyond that, right?
Correct. So fake it till you make it has its place, but fake it till you make it is just trying to do things differently. And if you haven't addressed the subconscious pieces, if you're not fully embodied as the person that you need to be to create what you want, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you're still energetically out of alignment.
And so the fake it till you make it is basically faking what you want to be instead of fully understanding the subconscious and getting into that. Is that right?
Correct. So you're just going through the motions. Like I'm doing the things that I am supposed to do to have this thing that I want. But on a subconscious level, I don't believe that it's possible. I'm still contorting myself in a lot of situations to create the
Yes.
outcomes that I think are possible. And so it just keeps pushing the thing that we want away. And as that happens, it reinforces the belief that, oh, I can't have what I want. Or our core wound that I'm not good enough, I'm not capable enough, I'm not, like, something's wrong with me.
Oh my gosh. That makes so much sense, right? Because the faking part just keeps building up more of what you already are rather than what you really feel like you should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's another thing that you talk about, and that is magnetism,
Yes.
right? Tell us about magnetism and being magnetic.
Yeah, I love magnetism. This has been so healing and incredible in my own journey in life. And magnetism, it sounds like this kind of out there woo woo concept, but really, the more we come into alignment with our truth, like we live in a frequency based universe. That's not woo woo, that's science. There's measurable frequencies and energies in our universe, and that includes us and the things that we're working to attract. Excuse me. And so the more we are in alignment, the more that we are moving through the world with a certain way of being that aligns us with the things that we want, and the more that we're able to do that as cleanly and as unblocked as possible, we become a match for the things that we want. We start to see the world reconfigure around us. Our relationships can shift. New opportunities come into play. Things start to move towards us that we want versus us pushing them away. And that's what that feeling of magnetism is. I'm just existing as who I'm here to be, and I'm moving through the world towards what I want, and it starts moving towards me.
Now that's different than actually seeing your future self. In other words, you're not just looking, you're not faking it until you make it. You're understanding yourself, your conscious, subconscious. You're understanding this magnetic thing that you have, and then you're seeing your future self becoming that thing. Is that a good summary of it?
Yeah, so the way of being work is we see the future version of ourselves who has what we want, and we bring that person into the now. And again, it's not fake it till you make it. I'm not like, well, she would do this, I'm going to go do that. It's I'm going to embody that version of myself. I'm going to think like her, breathe like her, move like her, believe like her, act like her. Full embodiment. And that's what helps kind of collapse time, because if I can show up as that person now, I'm moving more quickly, and the things that I want are moving more quickly, and I'm going to meet them a lot sooner.
See, one of the things that you and I talked about, and we've talked about it a couple of times, is the fact that you have your own, your new cool trailer that you've gotten. Did you use this whole philosophy and technology to go from where you were to getting that?
Yes, I had to face a lot. I mean, it's crazy to think, oh, you want to buy a house, or in my case, you want to buy a camper. You wouldn't think my core wounds are going to come into play around that, but they absolutely did. I had to face my self-worth. I had to heal some of my traumas on a deeper level, especially around asking for and receiving support. I had to organize myself and my way of being and my energy and my whole life around this is happening. This is what I want. This is what's happening now. So it was a very deep decision. And I did. I had to live my work and my teachings on a whole new level to make it happen as quickly as I did.
What kind of problems did you run into making that whole journey happen so that you could actually get what you wanted?
I would say trust and faith was the biggest. Believing that it was possible when it seemed like it wasn't going to happen. There was a time that it was actually, it went from, yes, this can happen to, nope, that's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to park where you want. You're going to have to.
Say that again, because I think a lot of people don't understand. Like they just think, oh, if you law of attraction it into existence, it's going to be there, and there is no like, any doubt or anything like that. Just say that again, because that's powerful.
Well, yeah. And I think the thing about trust and faith, like believing, it's two parts. So it's deciding that what I want will happen, and it's having trust and faith in the process and the timing. So something as humans that I think we don't understand is that we're like, we can move towards things, and we should continually organize ourselves around what we say we want and move towards it. And we're not in control of the timing. There are some things that we can accelerate, but everything has a gestation period, everything in its right time. And that doesn't mean that we make the vision board and sit back and say, everything in its right time, it will drop from the sky when it's ready to come to me. We still organize ourselves and our way of being, and we move towards it. And so for me, when that window of time when it was like the entire plan is a no, I remember, instead of defaulting out of fear to, well, I'm just going to do all the things that I don't want to do, I'm going to go back to like what I know works for living situations. I had to continually do the clearing of the limiting beliefs and the core wound stories and come back to my desire. Like, all that happened is that I got a no right now for this plan. What I want is to live my life differently, and I want a camper. So what do I need to do to keep moving towards that?
I gotta say something here because one of the objections that I hear from a lot of people is they say, I can't because, and it's usually I can't because
Mm.
I've got a family, I can't because I have bills, I can't because I have these other things that are more important. What do you say to those people?
I think it's really important to meet people where they're at. Otherwise, they can't hear anything else. So it is true and valid that those are obstacles to what you want. And it can be true and valid that that makes it way more difficult than someone who didn't have those obstacles. So I want to validate and like meet that experience. And I always do when people say that. And you have a specific subconscious belief system and worldview that inherently tells you what's possible and what's not and narrows your vision. So you can't think outside the box. I mean, I remember when I was my most broken after loss and trauma, and I had no money and I had trashed my credit and I needed a new vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people, right? Like, I don't have the money, I don't have the credit. That's something that I hear quite a bit for going after your dreams. I found a mechanic that was willing to sell me a car and let me make payments to him. Like, that wasn't even in my field until I committed to, like, I need to make this happen. And so it doesn't always look the way that we think it's going to. We have to be willing to say, I am decided that I want this and I am going to organize around it and make it happen. And I'm open because I don't know all the potential pathways to it.
That is super powerful. And I think what you just said about the whole I have to believe, I have to be strong enough to go for it, I have to actually try and see what the universe brings me, that's power right there.
And I think it takes a lot of surrender. Again, as humans, we think that we're fully in control, or we want to be. That's more comfortable to say, I want this and I want it this way. But in the process of moving towards our desires, if we're willing to be open and surrendered, we might find out that what we want is actually something we never could have conceived of until we got to this point in this particular block. And that's been the case for me with a lot of things in my life, is as I move towards them, and I stay
Hmm.
open and surrendered, and things don't work out the way that I think they should or I want them to, when I can be in trust and faith and openness, so much more opens in front of me, and there's so many other pathways.
I think the thing that I want people to understand is that you're not just talking the talk, you've actually walked the walk. And the best thing about people working with you, coming to you, understanding you is that you understand them because you've been there and are still there. We're all still there. Um,
Absolutely. And I what's important to me about this work is to normalize the experience, the challenges, the subconscious pieces, the self-sabotage, like all of it's normal and to be expected. And when you stop telling stories about it, like, oh, something's wrong with me, I'm not capable of creating what I want, something's wrong with other people in the world, you just have so much more freedom and leverage to actually create what you want.
Let me bring this up because I want people to get in touch with you. And you definitely, it's easy to find you. Just have to type in your name,
Yes.
stepheniezamora.com, and they will be right in touch with you. And you've also got, like, we did not talk about the Unravel book. Give us just a little bit about that.
Yeah, the Unravel book is a memoir about the most challenging season of my life, when everything seemed like it was on an upward trajectory finally in my life, my business. I ended a 2-year relationship and he ended up committing suicide shortly after. And it just absolutely flattened me and unraveled my entire life. And things only got worse before they got
Mm-hmm.
better. But I learned so much more than I ever wanted to learn about grief and trauma and what it takes to rise up and come back. And I've put my entire journey and everything I learned in that book.
Excellent. That's more proof that you're walking the walk. So
Thank
that's
you.
awesome to know. And you're on Instagram. I'm going to just say it's Stephenie Z and Steph is Stephenie Z. And you also are on YouTube. So
Yes.
you guys have lots of ways to get in touch with Stephenie. Ask her for help, and I'm sure that you will be willing to get out there and help everybody you can that gets in touch with you.
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you very, very much for being on today. I've enjoyed talking with you. I want to see pictures of your trailer or your camper as you build it out and see how amazing that comes along.
Thank you. Thank you for the work that you do and the conversations that you have.
Thank you very much. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next time.